Assalamualaikum and a very good day to all the teachers and viewers out there. Welcome back to Johor English Digital Learning Resources, JEDLR YouTube channel. Okay, so today we proudly present you another series of webinar, the Year 5 Curriculum Induction webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, today, I'll be your host for the webinar. I'll be moderating our webinar. My name is Muhammad Ermi bin Muhammad Kasah, the Assistant Director of Languages from the Learning Sector, Johor State Education Department. Before we make a start, I would like to highlight a few gentle reminders. Please use stable internet connection for the optimum viewing. And as viewers, you may post questions in the comment section on YouTube. So don't forget to drop your question or comments in the comment section because all the questions will be attended by our speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, how to earn professional development credit in SPL KPM. By watching our webinar, you can earn the professional development credit in SPL KPM. So you have to watch this live webinar until the end. And what you have to do, you have to scan the QR code or the link that I will share with all of you in the end of the webinar. Then you have to fill up the Google form. As easy as ABC, isn't it? So don't forget to stay with us until the end. What are the objectives of our today's webinar? Of course, to recognize the link between the new curriculum and the CEFR and to explore the purpose of curriculum-related documentation. And you can also have an overview of document Penjajaran Curriculum 2.0 and the UPSR for 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, in order to achieve the objective I mentioned earlier, so we have two guest speakers, our CFR National Master Trainers. The first one is Cikgu Yap Soon Lee from SJKC Tai Hong, Johor Bahru. Hi, Mr. Yap.
Hi, Mr. Ermi.
Thank you for being with us to share with all the teachers out there on the Year 5 curriculum, yeah?
All right, thank you for having me as well, Mr. Ermi.
Thank you, Mr. Yap. We also have another speaker. She is Cikgu Juhaida binti Abdul Aziz from SK Pancho Mua. She's also a CFR National Master Trainer. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Juhaida. I think you have to unmute your mic.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Mr. Ermi. Thank you for having me too, and I'm glad to share on this platform.
Thank you, Dr. Juhaida. Okay, I'll see you guys later. Ladies and gentlemen, the implementation of CFR in Malaysia started with the establishment of English language standards and quality of council in 2013. The council provided assistance to ELTC to help the Ministry of Education to elevate and to improve English language proficiency of Malaysian students. As for Johor, last year, there were 1,714 teachers trained by Cambridge English during the English curriculum online course, which is aligned with CFR for Year 5, Year 6, and Form 5. So, how much do you know about the Year 5 curriculum for English language? And where is the CFR taking learning, teaching, and assessment? So, all this will be shared by our speakers during the sharing session. And again, Don't forget to drop question or ask question in the comment section, because we are going to have the Q&A session after that. Without wasting any time, I would like to present you our very first speaker, Mr. Yap Soon Lee from SJKC Tai Hong, to share with all of you the Year 5 curriculum induction. Over to you, Mr. Yap.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ermi. Thank you. All right, first of all, I would like to introduce myself. Okay, my name is Yap Soon Lee, and then normally my colleague just call me Mr. Yap. Okay, I'm the CFR National Master Trainer, and I'm currently teaching in SJKC Tai Hong. And of course, first of all, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to the Johor State Education Department, especially their sector of the learning sector, for inviting me as the speaker to share the information with all the teachers. Thank you. Now, all right. So first, let's have a look at a new curriculum and CFR. As we all know that the CFR describes the language ability at 6 levels, with A1 being the lowest level and the C2 as the highest level. Now, the levels are grouped into 3 broad categories as the basic user, independent user, and the proficient user. Now, these terms, basic, independent, and proficient, has replaced the traditional terms of beginner, intermediate, and advanced, which are often being defined differently by each user, institution, and country, which makes it hard to understand what these terms actually mean when we are discussing language ability. And for that particular reason, therefore, CFR gave her new terms to describe the language ability, which is basic, independent, and proficient. As been shown here, we know that C2 and C1, they are both considered as the proficient user of the language. As for B1, B2, they are referred to as independent users of a language. As for A1, A2, they're considered as the basic users of the language. Now, for each level, actually, CFR describes in depth the language knowledge, the skills, and the competencies necessary for effective communication. Now, the competence that I'm talking here is about the communicative language competences, which is, in other words, it refers to the ability for a learner or for a student to understand and use of the language effectively to communicate in authentic social and school environments. Now, CFR prioritizes communication as the aim of the language learning, and this is done through the language activities, such as require learners to have the 4 skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Now, all right, next. As I believe that most of the teachers have been trained all these years, and you are quite familiar with the CFR global scales. Now, for primary school teachers, normally we focus on the A1, A2 level. All right, as we know here, now A1 is actually considered as the lowest generative language used. At this point, the learner they just need to know how to interact in a simple way by asking and answering simple questions about themselves or about their friends, and communicate in a very slow rate of speech, and mostly focusing on a refreshing and repair by the teachers. Now, not only that, they just need to know about how to ask and answer questions about the people that live nearby, people that they know, the things that they are familiar with, and how to initiate and respond to simple statements in areas of immediate need or something very familiar. As for A2 level, this is moving upper level a little bit, and this part is this particular level has the majority of descriptors for stating social functions, just as using simple everyday polite forms of greeting and address, greet people as how they are and react to news, handle very short social exchanges, ask and answer questions about what they do at work and in free time, and make and respond invitations, things like that. And of course, sometimes it's about getting out and about, make simple transactions in banks, or regarding the public transport, post offices, or banks, get simple information about the travel, ask for basic information, and give direction, things like that. So these 2 are the levels that we have to focus on as the primary school teachers, because we have to be aware that the Ministry of Education has already set the target for the primary level. The maximum is until A2 level. Now, of course, we have the pre-A1 level, which is being catered specifically for the preschool, all right? And of course, for the year one, we have working towards A1 level. Now, let's continue to have a look. What's the link between our new curriculum that we have right now with the CFR? This is the first sample, as you can see here. The first one is the speaking skills, okay? For the CFR descriptor, okay, this particular descriptor has been mentioned that a learner can make an introduction and use basic greeting and leave tagging expressions. So when we are tagging their descriptors and make it into our learning standards, okay, for primary year 2, we label it as 2.3.1, and the standard says that the learners have to able to introduce self and others to an audience using fixed phrases. As you can see here, introduce self and others to an audience actually refer to the descriptors for the part of making an introduction. As for using fixed phrases, it refers to using basic greeting and leave tagging expressions. So same thing when we apply this particular learning standard into our own classroom, as you can refer to the scheme of work, lesson 102, the kids have to first introduce themselves to the class, then they put on a mask, they become the animal, and in pairs, they have a short dialogue asking each other about themselves and what they can do. So as you can see here, our learning standard is aligned with the CFR descriptor, and our lessons is the one that had been designed in the scheme of work is aligned with the learning standard, which is linked to the CFR as well. So this is how we conduct the CFR aligned lesson. Now I'll be showing you the second sample as sample 2 here. This is for the listening skill. Okay. Now these descriptors specifically mention that the learners can follow speech, which is very slow and carefully articulated with long pauses for him or her to assimilate the meaning. So when it comes to our national level for our curriculum, okay, the standard is 1.3.1 for primary 3, okay, is guess the meaning of unfamiliar words by using visual clues when a teacher or classmate is speaking. So as you can see here, assimilate meaning has been refreshed in guessing the meaning of unfamiliar words. As for the using visual clues will be the interpretation of how to follow the speech, which is very slow and carefully articulated with long pauses. So in other words, for our standards, we design it in a way that when the teacher or the classmate is speaking, they'll be using the visual clues in order to enable the listeners to be able to guess the meaning of unfamiliar words. So when it comes to a practicality, when you apply it in our classroom, as you can refer to the scheme of work, primary 3, lesson 1, this is a textbook-based lesson. So the kids will be able to listen to a song and match each of the verse to the character. All right, these are the 2 samples that show us the link between our new curriculum and the CFR. So as teachers, you don't have to worry so much. All the documents has been prepared for you, and how to carry out the lessons has been designed properly. So what you need to do is just adapt and carry out accordingly. All right, now, next one. Let's have a look at the curriculum-related documentation. As teachers, we must be aware that we have been provided with the teachers' working materials by the BPK. Okay, so these are all CFR aligned curriculum documents. As we know, the first one is DSKP. Now, DSKP is very important document for the teachers, especially in terms of for us to assess the language ability. So this is the documents that we have to refer to whenever we want to assess in terms of formative assessment or the classroom-based assessment. We have to depend on these documents in order to give a very justifiable and objective kind of assessment. As for the syllabus, is a document for the teachers to know that the scope of the knowledge content itself. We would be aware that within which year, what kind of themes that we need to cover, what kind of grammars that will be covered, what kind of vocabulary and sentence structure that we have to cover. So in syllabus, we'll be able to find this kind of information. As for the scheme of work, it's a year-by-year teaching manual for the teachers. So BBK has been so nice for all the teachers. So the scheme of work has been designed for all the lessons so that the teacher will be able to just follow through it and adapt and adopt according to your school and your pupils' background in order to carry out implement the CFR aligned lessons. And of course, the teacher also been provided with a textbook. Okay, all the textbooks are aligned to the CFR, and normally in the textbook it comes with a whole package with the teacher's book and then audio files and with the worksheets and other related teaching resources. Now let's have a look at different years. What do we have for year 1 and year 2? We have the superminds. Okay, we have been provided with the DSKP, the syllabus, the scheme of work, and the scheme of work for the phonics. But of course, primary curriculum framework, as I mentioned over here, is for year 1 to year 6. Now, this particular document is for us to be able to see, okay, the coherence of all the learning standards within from year 1 all the way to year 6. So we'll be using this framework from year 1 all the way to year 6. Now, let's move on to year 3. Now, the year 3 for teachers' working materials, we have been provided with the DSKP, the syllabus, and the scheme of work. As for the SJK school, SJK CRT, the teachers have been provided with the year 3 additional material scheme of work. Now, as for when we move to year 4, we're still using the same type of book, Get Smart Plus 4. Okay, now this one we've been provided with the DSKP syllabus and the scheme of work. Now, come to this current year, we have the year 5. Okay, now year 5 we have changed to the new book, which is English Plus 1. All right, but we've been provided with the DSKP syllabus and the scheme of work as well. Now, not only the textbook has been provided, not only the DSKP, the syllabus, the scheme of work, the teachers also been provided with the teacher's book. So as teachers, we don't have to worry much. We just need to refer to the teacher's book in order to find a detailed explanation of the lessons, how to carry it out, how to implement your lessons, and what kind of activities that's suitable for us to enable the learners, the young learners, our kids to communicate, to apply the language skills. All right, now next one. So let's have a look at the DSKP. All right, the DSKP in under the terms, English term is, we call it the SABEL, Standard Based English Language Curriculum. Okay, until this current year, we have year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, and 5. So we have 5 sets of DSKP. Of course, we have DSKP for SK and DSKP for SJK. Now, in DSKP, we have to be aware that this document is very important for the teachers in order to fully understand the performance standards. So as teacher, when we carry out our assessment, especially the formative assessment or classroom-based assessment, we don't assess the kids based on our own interpretation or based on our own assumptions of the level. Everything we have to refer back to the document because it's a standardized document and everything is very objective and is very clear and concise and precise. So now let's have a look. For each different years for primary level, the Ministry of Education has already set the curriculum target. Okay, for year 1 is working towards A1. As for year 2 to year 4, they're focusing on A1 level, but it's been subdivided into A1 low for year 2. As for primary 3 is A1 mid, and as for year 4 is A1 high. It's only when they move to primary 5, they will go to A2 level. But again, it's been subdivided into A2 low level for primary 5. But it goes to year 6 is A2 mid. All right, be clear with that. It's not A2 high yet. All right, so as primary school teachers, we must always bear in mind for the curriculum target being set for our kids is A1 and A2. All right, now let's have a look at this general performance standards guide for year 1 and year 3 because they are considered as the A1 basic user. And DSKP has been mentioned clearly over here. When we give the kids performance level 1 when the pupils are hardly achieves the curriculum target, even with a lot of support. As the words mentioned here, they hardly achieve means that they achieve, but it's hardly achieved. okay, and they have to come with a lot of support from the teachers. When it's come to level 2, they're actually on track to achieve the curriculum target. When it comes to level 3, it means that the pupils achieve expectations of the curriculum target that been set for that particular year. Now, if we want to give them 4, 5, and 6, of course we can, but we have to be aware that when it comes to level 4, the pupils are working towards exceeding the expectations. As for level 5, they're on track to exceed the expectations. And when it comes to level 6, it means that the kids is definitely have exceeded the expectations of the curriculum target. Now, this is the year 4, our general performance standards guide. Okay, they're slightly different here for especially for level 1, but the difference is not so much. It just mentioned here the pupils displays minimal ability to achieve the curriculum target. And as for they come to year 5, same thing as well. Now, let's have a look over here. In DSKP, the teachers not only been provided with the performance standards, in these documents you can see here for all the specific content standards, what kind of specific focus that you need to focus on. For example, 1.1.1, the kids have to recognize and reproduce target language sounds. So the focus will be recognizing and reproducing the target language phonemes intelligibly, and it comes with the learning standard. So in the document itself, you can see what kind of focus that you need to pay attention to when you need to observe or assess that specific learning standards or content standard. Now let's have a look at the next slide. I'm giving you an example over here. This is the performance standards guide for listening skills year 1. Okay, as we know that year 1, the curriculum target level is working towards A1. As we can see here, performance level number 1. The kids requires in the notes, okay, on my right hand side over here, as you can see, the notes mentioned clearly is the kids require support to achieve the curriculum target. It means that they hardly recognize, but we have to be aware, hardly doesn't mean that they totally cannot. It's just that they only just or almost not, okay, but they still in a way, okay, on a way to do it. So they hardly recognize, or reproduce, and they hardly understand, but they have to come with a lot of support from the teacher. We give them 2 when they're on track to achieve the target. And if they're able to achieve the expectation of the curriculum target, we get them 3 according to the descriptors. Now, of course, as I mentioned earlier, if we want to give them 4, 5, 6, of course, we can give the kids if it's justifiable according to the learning standards, okay? Then again, teachers have to be aware when you judge them, when you assess the kids, you have to depend on the descriptors that been mentioned in the DSKP, all right? Now, let's have a look at year 2, okay? When it's come to year 2, the level is A1 low. Now, I have to go back to the previous slide, as you can see here. When it's year 1, when it reaching level 4, 5, and 6, as you can see the note over here, kids are working towards exceeding expectations, which is A1 low, A1 low. So when it comes to A1 low, actually they are moving towards the higher level, which is A1 low for year 2, which is the curriculum target for level 2. So as a teacher, we must always be aware that when your kids get 1, doesn't mean that they're unable to do it or they're failed. You should not have that kind of mindset, but you should be aware that when it's come to year 1 and year 2, it means that they requires a lot of support from the teachers and they hardly achieve the language skills. So we need to help them, assist them, and support them in order to achieve the target. All right, now this is a sample for year 2. Now I'll jump to year 4 because year 3 is mostly quite similar. As you can see here, for year 4, the level is A1 high. Now, as the descriptors mentioned clearly over here, even their level 1, they can recognize, then they can reproduce minimal target language phonemes after repeated listening with a lot of support. As I highlighted over here, even your kids are level 1, it still means that they can do something because it's so unfortunate sometimes the teachers might, or some of the school might assume that level 1 means that they fail, they're unable to do something. No, because for CFR, it's all about can do. We have to bear in mind, CFR is all about can do. It's just that can do at a different level. So we have to be aware of that, okay? So everything, when we want to assess the kids, we have to depend on the documents, which is the DSKP. Now, this is a sample for year 5, okay? And of course, the target is getting higher. But again, same thing, the level 1, it still means that they can. Now, again, does it mean that the kids cannot get higher level? No. The question should be, the key factors over here, the key ideas over here is that we have to give the level according to the descriptors, according to what they are able to do, but not simply based on our own assumptions of the level. All right. Now, next one. Let's have a look at the scheme of work. So these, the layout, the cover page of the scheme of work. Now, as we are aware that, okay, for SJK and SK schools, all right, both types of school, we have the same textbook. However, the scheme of works have 2 different versions, one for the SJK and one for the SK. All right. Now, we have these 2 types of documents because we have different time allocations for different types of school. Now, but however, as we can see here, for SJK, they only have 81 lessons. That's the last lesson for year 1. As for SK, the last lesson is 160 lessons, which you can see that is almost double. All right. Now, but we have to be aware that it doesn't mean that we don't teach the kids the skill. We use the same textbooks, but however, we still cover all the learning standards. We still cover the essential language skills for the kids for both types of school. It's just that because of different time allocation, their lessons has been cut short, and therefore some of the lessons, some of the skill will not be repeated, and some of the skill will not be reconsolidated. As for the SK, they have more time to repeat the skills again. Okay, that's the major difference. Now I give you another sample. This is a year 5 scheme of work. As you can see here, SJK, we only have 96 lessons. By the end of the last lesson is project 2. Same with the SK school as well. They're also doing project 2, but they have 160 lessons. All right. Now, let me show you. And the next things, this one, the main purpose over here is for the teachers to be aware that we have different set of scheme of work, and we have to understand that sometimes with the same textbook, we need to follow the scheme of work, what we need to cover and what kind of things that we don't have to cover, especially for the SJK. Okay, we have to be aware of that. Everything that you do in class, you have to follow the scheme of work because the document has been designed, has been published by BPK to assist all the teachers. Now, the next thing I need to highlight for the scheme of work is the glossary of the terms. As I mentioned, I give an example here, is listening 1.2.1. Now, even though with the same learning standards, but we will have different definitions according to different years. As you can see here, for year 1, they have to understand, we support the main idea of very simple phrases and sentences. When it comes to year 2, it becomes simple sentences. When it comes to year 3, it's about short, simple sentences, and then it becomes longer and longer. And again, simple sentences, what does it mean by simple sentences? What does it mean by short, simple text? We have to refer to the glossary in order to get a better picture of the definitions of the terms. I give you an example over here. As the green color highlighted over here, short, simple text. Now, short, simple text here means that the texts are those with 2 sentences and more, and they do not usually contain more than 1 paragraph. Now, this is for year 3. When it comes to year 4, they have to understand and with support for the main idea of longer simple text. Now, again, what does it mean by longer simple text? It means that it has to be more than 4 or 5 utterances or sentences, and they usually contain 1 paragraph. So as you can see here, the glossary of the terms in the scheme of work give us a very precise and concise definitions of the terms. All right. Then again, so as a teacher, we have the documents with us. So all what we need to do is just to refer back to documents in order to understand the whole our learning standards. All right. So it's not that challenging. All we got to do is reading. All right. Now, next one. So I need to touch a little bit about the English 1 Plus because this year is their CFR year for their primary 5. So we'll be using this book, English 1 Plus, year 5. Okay, the lesson cycles, same like the others, like the years before. We have listening, speaking, reading, writing, and language arts. But of course, for primary 5, we have another new part, which is the consolidation part, okay? And then, of course, we have the language awareness. Now, let's have a look at the difference between SK and SJK. Now, for SK, all right, the scheme of work consists of 16 lessons for the study unit and 18 lessons for the remaining units, which is from Unit 1 to Unit 8. But when it comes to SJK, you know that for starters, we only have 8 lessons. As for Unit 1 to 8, we only have 11 lessons, though both types of school using the same textbook. So as a teacher, as I mentioned earlier, you have to teach according to the scheme of work. That's the answer. We have to teach according to the scheme of work. As I know, as a teacher myself, I know that sometimes the teachers, especially in the SJK school, they might question you, why are you not covering this page? Why are you not covering this activity? You have to let them know that because we are SJK school and the time allocation is different from SK, but yet we're using the same textbook, but BPK has designed our specific scheme of work, which is cater for our needs. And again, you have to tell the parents that we teach all the skills, we cover all the important skills. It's just that we don't have much consolidation or repetition, and some of the activities we won't cover it. So we have to be aware of that. All right. Now, okay, I have finished for this part, okay, regarding the link between the new curriculum and the CFR. Okay, I'll be moving to the next topic, which is about their DPK 2.0. All right, so if you have any questions or any queries, please feel free to type out your questions, and then we will try our best to address your queries. All right, so now I will move to the next part, DPK 2.0. All right, DPK 2.0 stands for Document Penjajaran Curriculum in Malay. All right, so in English term, we call it Curriculum Alignment Document. So as a teacher, this is 2.0. All right, then you must asking a questions, what is 1.0 then? All right, now last year 2020, okay, we have DPK 2.0. Now we have to understand that DPK been published in order to cater for the new norm, because we have the movement control order. The kids are unable to come to school due to all these constraints that we're facing, especially the time constraints. So therefore, BPK has been published a DPK in order to assist the teachers so that we will able to cover the major or the important learning standards, and so that our kids will be equipped with the essential skill in terms of English language skills ability for their learning journey. So that's the main purpose why we have DPK been published. Last year is DPK 1.0, but this year, okay, due to we still facing the challenge, okay, the pandemic. So that's why we have DPK 2.0. All right. So that's the major difference between these two. But of course, the most important thing, we have to understand that DPK doesn't mean that it's a new curriculum. It's not a new set of curriculum, but it's we restructured the existing curriculum in order to cater to face the challenge, the new norm here. All right. Now the content has been divided into 3 parts. Okay, the basic content, which is kandungan asas, the additional content, the kandungan tambahan, and the complementary content, which is the kandungan pelengkap. Now, of course, for DPK 2.0, we'll talk about blended learning, things like that. All right. For this part, my partner, Dr. Johaida, she will cover in details regarding the blended learning, and you have to pay attention for the second part of the session so that you will get some ideas. Okay, the strategies how to help yourself in order to carry out the lessons. Now, as I give you an example over here, this is a scheme of work for year 5, okay, for lesson 1. As I highlighted in yellow color here, this is kandungan asas, okay, 3.2.1. But as you can see, in this scheme of work for this particular lesson, 3.2.1 actually is a complementary skill. However, if we follow the DPK 2.0, this actually is the kandungan asas, okay, the basic skill that we have that must be mastered by our pupils. But however, for the main skill, which is listening 1.2.1, is actually considered as the kandungan tambahan for the DPK 2.0, which means that these particular skills can be implemented through various learning methods and techniques according to your needs, according to the suitability of your school culture, things like that, all right, according to what you can do. So that is what it means by the kandungan tambahan. So this is a sample for the teachers to review. And then as a teacher, we have to aware that which part is the kandungan asas and which part is the kandungan tambahan by referring to the DPK 2.0. All right. Now, that's it from me. Okay. Or if you have any questions, okay, regarding with the topics that we have discussed just now, okay, the first part regarding the new curriculum, the link between new curriculum and the CFR. And the second part, we talk about the curriculum, the CFR aligned documentation. And for the third part, we talk about the DPK 2.0. All right. So now my sessions, I will stop here. Okay. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and then we will try our best to address your queries. All right. Now back to you, Mr. Ermi. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Yap, for the insightful session just now. So it's crystal clear explanation. All right. I would like to welcome teachers from Sarawak, Perak, Kedah, Kuala Lumpur, Penang, and Sabah for watching us. Don't forget to share this live webinar to all your friends out there. So don't forget to subscribe and like our channel. Without wasting time, I would like to call our next speaker, Dr. Juhaida binti Abdul Aziz from SK Pancho Muar. She's also a CFR National Master Trainer. So over to you, Dr. Juhaida.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Ermi. And also, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I would like to express my highly gratitude to the Johor learning sector, especially the learning sector. And then I'm happy also because Madam Rokia, the Senior Principal Assistant Director of Language, the learning sector, is also around. Okay, Assalamualaikum everyone, and hi. Okay, before I proceed with my session, I would like to address a few questions posted by teachers. All right, and what I have here is there's a question from Madam or Teacher Pars S saying that till now we do not know the format to assess pupils. Teaching CFR and assessment methods still follow UPSR. Okay, teachers out there, as far as I'm concerned, when we implement CFR in an English language, okay, we also have FA, formative assessment, in which that we do this particular method to assess our student. And it's not just like what we call it, we have like summative at the end of every session. Actually, it's an online or ongoing assessment, okay? And after this, I am going to touch on this particular subject in details. So please hang on, stay tuned, and we will answer, and I will answer to the question after this, okay? And other question is about why do we need to have the starter unit? Why not just go to unit 1 to 8? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am not the person to say it, okay? Because it is belong to the Cambridge education, and it's also a line curriculum at what being proceed or what being stated, and it's like our kitab and it's already there. So again, I really appreciate on the question posted by teachers. Okay, let me proceed with my point. Yeah, I'm going to share my slides. Okay, I'm Dr. Juhaida binti Abdul Aziz, currently teaching in SK Pancho Muar. I'm also the CFR National Master Trainer, as well as the Vice President of EDD Malaysia. Hi everyone, I can see that there's many of you come all over Malaysia, not just from Johor, from Sabah, okay, from Sarawak, Melaka, Negeri Sembilan, and so on. And I'm really glad to have you all around, and we share the event here. Now, what I'm going to share with you all is actually the implement of CFR lesson. If you see on my screen, there are some factors on home-based learning, on differentiated strategies, or we call it DS, the formative assessment, the dilemma platform, challenges and action taken by the MOE, ELTC, NGO and teachers. So these are factors affecting when teachers, what they call it, practice the PDPR or home-based learning, okay, before we have our face-to-face teaching and learning session. But what I would like to address here or highlight here is these three things, okay? Yes, implement CFR lessons, which I like to focus is on the DS, on the formative assessment, and after this, the new UPSR 2020. So hang on, teachers out there, please stay tuned, be patient, okay, as I go on, all right, so you will find your answers is there, okay? So now back to this slide, home-based learning. What we have done here, okay, during the pandemic or during our PDPR lesson, normally teachers exercise these three types of blended learning, which I call it online learning. And normally teachers use the dilemma platform to exercise their online learning, for example, via the Google Meet, okay, via the Microsoft Teams, or even StreamYard, as what we're doing now, okay, StreamYard via YouTube. Again, if they use offline learning, maybe they use Telegram or WhatsApp. And if they exercise the offsite learning, they use materials sent to school. Teachers need to prepare the materials and then they send to school. Later on, parents fetch the materials from the school. So these are the type of blended learning being exercised by the teachers during PDPR, okay? Next, all right, these are the three components that I'm going to highlight, okay? And the first one, I'm going to touch on differentiated strategies, which we know as DS. So for these methods, we have like 7 components. For example, the first one is flexible paced learning. The second point is collaborating learning. Later on, I will explain more on that. Okay, and the third point is on progressive tasks. So please, teacher, be aware when I discuss on this, when I sharing this, if you have any doubt, please post the question, okay? And then the fourth point is on the digital resources. The fifth is verbal support. The sixth is variable outcomes. And finally, the ongoing assessment. Well, teachers that there. The first point is on the flexible paced learning. Traditionally, tasks are completed in a set of amount of time, accommodates the slow paced learners, meaning that we accommodate also the supported groups, the weak student in our class. So this means that faster learners from the advanced group are held up by the pace of their peers. Okay, and then the slow learners feel rushed, okay, and incapable of learning at the necessary pace. Hence, for that, fastest learners are given the facility to complete extension tasks by using this flexible paced learning. So it gives other pupils an opportunity to complete their exercise at a more comfortable speed. So meaning that there is nobody left behind, as everyone of different level of abilities in the classroom are being taken into consideration. Next point is on collaborative learning. When we exercise differentiated strategies, we also focus on collaborative learning. See, this facilitating group work, and it's very excellent for empowering support learners to participate more in class. Again, teacher can form mixed ability groups of pupils, give high achievers a platform to vocalize their ideas. So you see, high achievers can vocalize their ideas. Maybe they can guide the weak student, and the lower abilities learners can have a way to collaborate with and learning from their peers. So you see, this collaborative learning is very important and it's very significant role to be exercised in our CEFR classroom. So again, teachers allocate roles to each members of the group and can also help pupils to organize themselves according to their different skills, different abilities, and also levels. So again, teachers out there, this gives less able learners or weak students a way to add value and generate more confidence in themselves. So Next point is on progressive tasks. Teachers out there, ladies and gentlemen, it is possible for teachers to set separate work, okay, or exercises to different learners based on their abilities. However, this approach can pose a few problems. You see, not only does it highlight learners' ability more publicly with potentially negative social implication, it also requires considerably more administrative work for teachers. Teachers need to set, for example, like 3 levels of worksheet. For example, for the weak student, for the average student, and for the advanced student. But for these progressive tasks, teachers can get what you call it, everyone is being taken into consideration. A progressive worksheet, however, that gets more complex as the learner makes progress. So it means that it is more sensitive alternative, allows learners with a slower pace, with a weak from the weak group, okay, lower ability to learn in their own pace and then on their own speed. So again, it also gives good impact to more able learners from the advanced group to progress to more challenging questions more quickly. So again, teachers, progressive tasks are also very very effective for you to use when you have your session in your CEFR classroom. Another point for DS, which is digital resources. So again, teachers out there, by using interactive tools, okay, and digital application, for example, like mixed ability classes, get the opportunity to approach a topic or subject from different angles. So the use of digital resources can also highlight a skill or passion in students with less academic ability, while others might work more effectively with non-traditional resources and medium. For example, teachers, during the pandemic, when they have to learn from home, or we call it home-based learning, all right, some of you teachers are using digital resources. For example, you use live worksheet, and it's very interactive, okay? Some of the students love it very much because why? Because the worksheet is very interactive. They can do it, and after they finish it, they turn to the, the link finish, and the system will grade them, will give them mark. So it's very interactive in a way that the student love when we use digital resources compared to the traditional thing that whereby you ask your student to copy whatever you write on the whiteboard, okay, or to copy from the textbook, and then they need to write on their exercise book and so on. So again, teachers, you need to have the ICT level of competency to use the digital resources for your student with different or variety kind of level. Okay, so again, teachers, this method of differentiations allow different materials, different platforms, different tools to be used to bring about the same learning outcome. You see, we set our learning objective. We have our main learning objective. We have our complementary learning objective. So these are the things that we make the tools. Okay, but again, teachers, you need to have the skill. You need to upgrade your skill in order to monitor these digital resources. So again, teachers, this a particular component of DS give pupils confidence in their digital skills. Next point is on verbal support. So teachers can identify different learning abilities and adapt their vocal explanations and support to different academic levels. So using targeted questioning can produce different responses in learners of different learning profiles. So again, teachers, we have to really well versed with our students in our own class. So again, we have to have differentiated strategies of different level in our class. So if I look at some of the questions, okay, I'm going to take a break because I need to look at the question. How do we set a CFR assessment for the year 4 and 5 pupil? Is it so different from the present format? Okay, well, teachers, again, Nowadays, we are practicing the CEFR format, okay? And remember, as what my friend addressed just now, CEFR actually is focusing on what? Not just reading and writing, but also focusing on listening, also focusing on the usage of English, also focusing on the speaking, writing and listening. So again, teachers, when you come out with your assessment for year 4, for year 5, these are the components that you need to bear in your mind when you create your assessment. Again, teachers, if you still in doubt, actually, for year 5, for year 4 textbook or student book or teacher's book, they also provided with samples, okay, samples of tests, sample of assessment tests. So you teachers might go there and have a look on the sample on how to create the assessment for your student of year 4, and now we have year 5. Okay, next. For the next point is on variable outcomes. Okay, I'm going to look again on the question. My personal opinion, I love the starter unit. You see, she's sharing her what you call it, her opinion. Could be considered as revision for the pupils as English on ongoing process of learning. Yes, yes, teachers. That is why they call it starter. All right. Even though when you want to create your lesson plan, you also have starter, isn't it? It's like the induction set, in which you recap your previous, okay, your previous content of teaching and learning. You are going to trigger your student previous knowledge. Okay, so that is why in year 5, all right, the Cambridge Education come up with the starter unit. So again, teachers, it's not a waste to have the starter unit in a way that is like revision from our year 4 syllabus. From the syllabus of year 4. And I also came out from the, I saw also one of the questions saying that where to get the syllabus. Of course, teachers, syllabus of year 1 to 6. Teachers, please browse to the MOE or BPK website or portal. Okay, they have it. Okay, they have it. And for your information, teacher, you need to join the Telegram. Okay, if you want to know more about year 5 English +1, please join the Telegram. Okay, we have a number of Telegram solely discussing on English +1. Okay, please have your Telegram account. All right, go there and search. For example, you can put it there, English language, English +1 year 5. There is a number of platform discussing solely on that particular matter. So teachers, you don't worry, you won't be left behind, okay? And there is, I saw also one person asking where to find the audio of year 5. Again, teachers, please go to the right platform of year 5. Over there, there is a lot, okay, lots of what you call it, subject contents, all right? Lots of materials of year 5 are being shared for free. So please, teacher, okay, make yourself available of this kind, okay, of digital resources. Okay, make yourself be in the mainstream rather than you be the outliers. All right. Okay, so now again, teachers, I see, okay, so far, I guess I already, what you call it, answer some of your questions. So now I'm going to move on, right? Okay, if you look on the 6th component of DS, I touch on variable outcomes. Outcome means the product, okay, product that you are, what you call it, expect the student will come up. So rather than setting a task with a single outcome or right answer, taking a more interactive approach to an exercise gives learners the flexibility to arrive at a more personal result. So learners of different abilities, different levels will arrive at different outcomes that match their level of understanding and learning. So again, teachers, you need to have clear direction on which of your groups of your students in your class, okay, will have as their product, as their end product. For example, if you have like weak student, of course you are expecting them to provide this one. this outcome. If you have the what you call it a high achiever student, of course you have this kind of outcome that you want them to produce. And for the average student, you also need to have them to produce this kind of outcome. So again, teachers, you need to be very well versed with your student, meaning that you need to exercise the DS or differentiated strategies very well. Okay, last but not least, the last point is ongoing assessment. So it's actually answer to one of the teachers out there asking how to come up with the assessment for my student. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, regular assessment and feedback. Also, remember teachers, also allows teachers to adapt their teaching methods according to their various learners' needs. Okay, we have variety, or what you call it, different multi-levels of students in our class. Some of them come from different socio-economic also. Some of them come from the rural area. Some of them come from the urban area. So meaning that they have different kind of stories behind it before they enter our classroom. Okay, so teachers, assessment currently takes place both throughout the year. Yes, throughout the year, teacher, not just one time, once, okay, but throughout the year. And you should be clear of it. Meaning that when you do assessment, doesn't mean should be on the paper only, teachers. Okay, that is why we come out with two types of assessment known as formative assessment as well as summative assessment. I will touch on it after this. Okay, so again, teachers, with interactive assessment, yes, like game, like Kahoot game, okay, like quizzes, okay, like EduPlus, puzzle. So teachers can perform anonymous or open polls, menti-menti, end of classes assessment, pop quizzes. These are the assessment, the quick assessment, okay, that you can do with your student to measure, okay, to measure their level of understanding when you teach your class. Meaning that you are not short sendiri, okay? When you have this kind of feedback, that is why we call it ongoing assessment. Meaning that when you do this assessment, that you know where your students are, okay? Where your students are, whether your your class objective or learning objectives being achieved. That is why you have to look again on your main objective, on your complementary objective. And you must remember, if you can't achieve your main LO, you need to do it again. But if you can't achieve your complementary LO, it's okay. Because why? Because it will be repeated. It will be repeated in the next circle, as mentioned by Mr. Yap, my friend just now. Okay, we teach our CEFR lesson in a circle, meaning that there is no gap. It's circle. When you think about a circle, of course, you start from point A, you will go back to point A again. Am I right? So therefore, teachers can be informed in the moment about levels of understanding, interpreting, and learning. So this flexible method, teachers, allows for all learning profiles, meaning that for all different types of students, whether they are weak students, whether they are average students, whether they are advanced students, they have the right, teachers, to be assessed. And you have the right to assess them properly, teachers. Not just like one size fits all. You cannot do anymore that what you call it old school type of learning, okay? Type of learning that's one size fits all. No more, teacher. When you do the CFR lesson, okay, you need to bear in mind, this is a very significant rule that you need to know. You need to master, and you need to, what you call it, be well versed. Okay, I have been noted to see at the question. Refer to your second screen. Okay, yeah, I'm looking at it. Yes, Mr. Kamaru. I'm also looking at the comments. All right, comments from the live chat. Okay, so far I think you agree with me, isn't it? All right, next we go to 4 ways to implement differentiated instruction strategies in the classroom. So again, teachers, if you're still in doubt, okay, on how to implement your DS instruction, differentiated strategies instruction in your classroom, please bear, there are actually four factors that you might consider. Okay, the first one, all right, you need to create a differentiated learning environment. What is that? Okay, the first differentiation technique, you have to change the physical layout of the classroom, for example. All right, you have to make sure that your classroom is conducive. But I am sorry to tell you the truth. The truth is, during this pandemic, COVID-19, of course, we have lot and straight of SOP. Am I right? We have very straight SOP in which you need to have like 1 meter distance. Okay, we need to have physical distancing. We need to have social distancing. All right. So those are the SOP that we need to practice now. But again, teachers, let's say if you really want to know what is going on with this DS in CEFR classroom, these are the things. All right. And then, for example, you can create a teaching table where a teacher-led instruction will take place, all right? And then maybe you can come up with workstation. So again, in pandemic 19, COVID-19 now, we need to have what we call it, special places. We cannot touch our students, you know, we cannot just simply go near to them. We have to have all this SOP to be practiced. All right, but again, I'm telling you what is actually happened if no COVID-19. That's what if you want to exercise the DS in the classroom of CEFR. Now, next point is prepare thoughtful lessons backed by data. What is that? So teachers, before you even begin teaching each lesson in your classroom, you should examine data. Okay, data assessment, that is your student exam pass assessment. How to do it? You may collect the data. Okay, you may look at their work samples. How they do it? Do they do their work? How they write it? How they come up with this project? All right, and student observation to identify specific instructional strength for each student. Meaning that you need to really know your student. Okay, each and everyone rigorously. Okay, so again, how to do it? You need to look at the data. That is why the data is very important. That is why the evidence is very important. That is why we come out with this formative assessment. We come out with the summative assessment. Okay. And then then you can change the process of learning experience by assessing different tasks, okay, to different learners. So you can give different tasks to different ability of your student. For example, okay, for the weak student, all right, you may give them a very simple task. Instead of asking them write a very long sentences, all right, they maybe come out just tick or just write a word or even a letter. As long as they do it, they achieve their learning objective. You see, that is why we need to have the success criteria in our lesson plan. All right, in which, as what mentioned by my friend Mr. Yap, can-do statement. Okay, so if you look at the weak student, the can-do statement is I can fill up a word or fill up a letter. And then can-do statement for the advanced group. They can come out with write or construct a sentence or construct a few sentences. So these are the things that, again, you need to look at the data. Next, number 3, tailor assignments based on students' learning goal. This is what I said just now. All right, so using differentiation strategies to shake up the end product that students turn in assignment can also help you reach different learners. So you see, these are all the samples. Okay, these are all of variety kinds of method that you can implement. Sometimes we are in doubt, or sometimes we still have what we call it, unsure. We're not sure about how to have this DS, okay, differentiated strategy in our classroom. Now I'm sharing with you, I'm giving you an example. Actually, it's very simple. Actually, this is what actually you do, okay, you normally do in your classroom. It's only that sometimes maybe you not really know that, oh, this is the differentiated strategy or this is the DS. Okay, and then yeah, you can offer student different avenues, right? Places to present their understanding of the lesson based on what you call it, on how they learn the materials. All right. For example, some visual learners, okay, student who have visual ability means that they love to look at pictures. All right. They love to look at pictures, and then they want to create a poster. They like to draw, okay? They don't like to write, but they like to express themselves in illustration. So again, teachers, you need to know this kind of pupils in your class. And for example, like other students like to listen. So this is audio student ability that you need to talk to him, all right, or to her. If he loves to listen to a song, ask them to sing a song, okay, have competition, and so on again. And then some of the students also love to move around. So you see, this psychomotor kind of ability we need to address also. But again, we have one, what we call it, learning outcome in which the progress is different. The process of reaching the goal is little bit different because we highlight the DS, the differentiated strategy, or the differentiation of our student in the class. Okay, finally, you need to adjust your lesson content based on students' need. Okay, that is why in our lesson plan, as we know, is already in year 5, already 5, okay, we have, as I mentioned just now, we have the main objective, we have the complement objective, and we also have the success criteria. So again, if you look at, and once everything you have done with your lesson plan and everything, and then you have your impact, you have your reflection. Again, from that, you can see whether your learning objective of your main learning objective, whether your complementary learning objective have been achieved. If not being achieved, then this is how you adjust your lesson content. Maybe you can improvise, maybe you can simplify. When you look at your student in class, maybe in your class, more of weaker students. So you need to lower the levels of your content standard, of your lesson content, all right? And if in your class, there are a number of pupils are from high achievers, okay, then maybe you can make it complex, make it more difficult for them to do the tasks. So these are the things, okay, these 4 ways of implementing the DS strategies in the classroom is very important, teachers. So please, if you still, not exercising it, please try to take a baby step after this. Okay, next. As I mentioned just now, formative assessment in CEFR. So what we have here is FA or formative assessment actually or indeed give positive impact on classroom assessment. Yes, as I mentioned just now, what is actually classroom assessment? So teachers out there, ladies and gentlemen, classroom assessment is actually the process of gathering evidence of what a learner knows, okay, of what your student knows, what the learner understands, okay, and what the learner is able to do. So this, we call it classroom assessment. Again, formative assessment is an ongoing process. Okay, as I mentioned again and again, formative assessment is an ongoing process. It's not a static process. It's ongoing process. So it's actually a process to provide learners with immediate feedback. How to do it, on how well they are learning, how to get immediate feedback. Of course, teacher, please don't straight yourself into, saying assessment, you need to have like written tasks. No, teacher. Even if you look at your students' body language with their blurred eyes, they are confused. Okay, last time you used to have this traffic light, blah, 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 and so on. Of course, you know that your student do not understand whatever you are talking to him or her. So you need to check back. Okay, you need to check back by having several formative assessments that you can have a quick feedback, all right? And then it's also functional and task orientated. So again, teachers, when you give the task to your student, all right, you can also come out with formative assessment. And then this FA also applied to language learning for works, okay, for study, for social tourism, etc., etc., etc. And the list is never-ending story. Okay, and then this FA also gives students responsibility. You see, teachers, I'm going to highlight students' responsibility in reflecting on own language abilities, meaning that, okay, by practicing CEFR in your classroom, you give the student the honor of their learning. See, you give the honor of your, give the student the honor of their learning. And of course, I think they will be proud, okay, if you think, oh, this is what I'm doing. So you see, they will be proud because they have parts. They become parts of the learning journey rather than you leave them behind. For example, like student, okay, all right, no. Everybody, nobody, okay, nobody is left behind in CEFR classroom. Next, formative, summative self-assessment. Not only teachers, you can have this formative assessment done by you, even among the student also, they can have their self-assessment, all right? For example, intra and inter, okay, activities within or out of the group. But again, you have to remember now we are exercising SOP of the pandemic COVID-19. Everybody are being seated like 1 meter distant, all right? But again, you can be much creative, all right, to think on how to conduct, okay, the formative or summative self-assessment in your class. Again, I would like to highlight here, okay, the positive orientation can-do statement. I guess Mr. Yap already explained more on this can-do statement. Okay, learners can, I can. You see, we implement all the positive impact to the student. Perhaps initially the student not confident to proceed or to answer you. Okay, when you ask question, they just keep quiet. All right, but becoming or implementing this can-do statement, I can, then they can do it even a little bit. At least that achievement really give something to the student on that particular day during your class. So again, teachers, differentiated strategies, formative assessment in CEFR is very important. Okay, you cannot leave these two components behind, all right? Okay, and beside that, all right, this formative assessment also is motivating not only to the teachers, but also to the students themselves, all right? Teachers are motivating when they see their students can perform, can achieve the learning objectives set by them, okay? Or for this lesson, for example, today, you see your student manage to achieve your LO, LO. Wow, you feel so great on that day. And then for the student part, they feel so great. Right? They will scream or they will clap their hands or they will show something, you know. Because why? Because even a very single point, they are weak students, but again, they manage to write a letter in your tasks give to them. So again, teacher, this is very motivating. It's how that you need to have a clear mind how to do this formative assessment. Again, teachers, this not just it's also helpful in your pre-service and in-service training. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you see here, FA, I can divide it into 3 components. Teachers can ask themselves, where I am going? So meaning that teachers need to have clear learning targets. All right, they need to have clear learning target. They need to be clear for their success criteria when they set it in their lesson plans. Okay, all right, next, when the teachers ask themselves, where I am now? meaning that they need to collect and document evidence, and they need to know whether the students really achieve their learning objective on that particular day. So again, this is analyze evidence and the feedback from the student. And finally, how do I close the gap? You see the gap of the student, whether they understand your lesson or not. So this is this descriptive feedback. So again, if you find that your student do not understand your lesson, you need to adjust instruction. Perhaps your instruction is quite lengthy. Your instruction is quite difficult for them to answer. Make it simple, teacher. Simplify. Okay, simplify. As long as it's embedded, the learning standard, the content standard teachers, and the SOW, all right, you are in the right track. And again, we also have DPK, okay, Penjajaran 2.0. Okay, some of you even ask me, can we finish what you call it? The syllabus is very lengthy, and I also some of the question asked. Okay, they said that English +1 so compact. All right, there is a lot of skill there. Teachers, don't worry too much. If you are worried too much, you are going to stress yourself easily or free. Okay, so again, teachers, please, teacher, when you do your lesson plan, whatever it is, please refer back to your SOW. Please refer back to the Penjajaran, the SKP Penjajaran 2.0, in which you are being captured. All right, there are, we call it learning standard being stated there. So just follow, teacher. So don't worry too much. Maybe you can improvise, okay? Doesn't mean that you have to do each and everyone, I mean, in the what you call it, in the student book. You have to refer back to your kitab. You have to refer back to your documentation. Okay, then you won't be left too far behind. You will be in the mainstream. Okay, next. All right, FA in classroom. Okay, if you look here, I divided into 3 components. The first one is the principles embedded in FA in classroom, and the benefits for the student, and the building blocks behind it. Okay, teachers, if you are talking about the principles of FA or formative assessment in classroom, again, teachers, we focusing on the sharing and understanding learning objectives, as I mentioned just now, and also the success criteria. Okay, so you need to share. That is why in 21st learning century, okay, way of teaching, we need to have the learning objective being written on the whiteboard, or the learning objective being shared with your student before ever you start your class, so that your student won't be at shock or be so surprised, because they know what they are going to do during the lesson. Yes, again, beside sharing and understanding LO and the success criteria, this what you call it, principle of formative assessment also help pupils to show what they learn. Yes, they know the track, they know what to do after this, so they are prepared. So they can tell their brain to be prepared, okay, to be prepared and to follow you properly. All right, next, for the next one is giving feedback that moves learning forward. Of course, by having FA in your classroom, you know where to go, where are you, what is the gap and everything. So meaning that if you think everything is being covered, if you think everything is being achieved, of course you are going to move forward. But from the feedback, from the formative assessment you got from your student, your learning objective is not reached, of course you need to reverse, you need to slow down your pace and things like that. All right, next, helping pupils to help and support each other also is the principle in classroom. Okay, it's the principle of FA in classroom. So again, they will help each other. That is why just now I mentioned about collaborative learning, meaning that they help each other on how to answer the question. It's not like tiru, copy. No, actually when you're copying also is a part of learning session. All right, it's a part of learning also. Making errors, making mistake also is part of learning. And making errors, okay, is also a very great teachers. Okay, not teachers, but a very great teachers to us. All right, and then helping pupils to be the owner on their learning. So that's just now I mentioned, okay, having FA in classroom also give the student, okay, and make them the owner of their learning. Next, as well as that, all right, benefits of the student also, pupils are encouraged, okay, pupils are encouraged to think more explicitly rather than, think of within the box. They can be, go to the higher achievers thinking, or go to the higher level of thinking rather than stay themselves in lower order thinking skill. So that by doing that, teachers, students may exercise, okay, they can synthesize, they can analyze, and finally they can create. So that's the highest thinking skill in taxonomy Bloom. All right, now beside those benefits that I mentioned just now is also give motivation, all right, create motivation, positive impact to the student. And finally, we help to develop the, what you call it, growth mindset in the students themselves rather than they have static mindset. Okay, and the third point is on building blocks. I already mentioned when teachers create their lesson plan, they also need to ensure the learning objective and success criteria are being achieved or can be achieved by the student. And then if you see here, yes, this is the illustration. All right, so for the building blocks, they have, the teachers need to share the LO, the success criteria. They also have examples, all right, starters and plenary, and deliberate practice in which they do, the student need, the teachers need to sustain effort, okay, into improving their student performance. Deliberate practice need to do it again and again and again and again to make sure that the student really master. Okay, it's like mastery learning. So again, a very traditional way of asking in FA, we question them. Okay, we ask the feedback by question them. We ask them to have self and peer assessment, and we can have quick scan. And finally, we can also have discussion. So these are all the factors, the components that you need to practice in your FA in classroom. So these are samples, right? Teachers out there, these are the examples of FA, all right? The examples of FA, for example, like you can have observation. Oh, all right. Mr. Kamal said, I'm running out of time. So bottom line, the world is changing, right? So today crisis has opened the door to new opportunities. So again, teacher, last but not least, I am going to show it to you the overview of the new UPSR exam 2022. So again, just now I saw it. There's some question asking about this. So teachers, once again, I am going to highlight here. Please listen very carefully. The new UPSR aims to enable pupils to communicate in both written and spoken English. You see, written and spoken English, not like the old UPSR, whereby, okay, the tasks, the assessment, or the exams only focuses on reading and writing. But new UPSR, inshallah, will be held in 2022, will focus on this written and spoken English. So again, new UPSR is aligned to the CEFR. Once again, I emphasize aligned to the CEFR reporting at A1 to A2 levels of the primary school. So again, teachers, please remember it focuses on 4 language skills, which are reading and use of English, speaking, listening, and writing. Okay, so the revised UPSR is structured to test the learning standard in curriculum framework. Teachers, by all means, all the CFR teachers, please, you need to have this curriculum framework with you. That is why if you have problem whatsoever, you have to refer this to this documentation. So again, teachers, this new UPSR exam has been designed to test pupils' ability to meet the learning standard. So you see, the new English language curriculum is aligned to the CFR. Remember, it's aligned to CFR and aims, please write down, aims to enable pupils to communicate in both written and spoken English. Okay, so again, it's prior to the introduction of the CFR Alliance curriculum, UPSR again tested pupil listening, reading, and writing skill. I see this is the diagram. Okay, finally, all right, you see, as what mentioned by my friend Mr. Yap, please follow whatever in your learning standard and follow whatever in the scheme of work. Never change even the words there. All right, you need to follow rigorously whatever being stated in the learning standard and also the SOW. So all these activities have been carefully planned, all right, and sequenced in order to focus on addressing the learning standard in every lesson for both main and complementary. So finally, this is my last slide. The UPSR exam has been designed, teachers, please remember, inshallah, in 2022, okay, the UPSR exam has been designed to test pupils' ability to meet the learning standard. For example, if the exam, if the question is on listening, actually you take or extract the learning standard, for example, like in 1.2.2, that's for example. So consequently, teachers, you should ensure that you follow the learning standard in curriculum framework and use the activities, suggestions and tips in the SOW to help your pupils achieve the learning standard. With that, I thank you and back to Mr. Amy, the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johaida, for such a detailed explanation on the formative assessment, differentiated instruction, and the overview of the UPSR for 2022. Okay, we have come to the Q&A session. I believe that we have a lot of questions from the viewers, from the teachers out there. So can we have the first question? Okay, this is from Hafsah Jalil. Doctor, there are 160 lessons in the Year 5 SOW. Can we choose and skip some of the lesson? Dr. Johaida.
Yeah, all right. So again, teachers, if you look at the DSKP 2.0, they stated, you just imagine before this, we have like SOW, a very thick one, right? But for the DSKP 2.0, it become a little bit shorter. So again, teachers, you need to refer to the DSKP 2.0, meaning that, okay, perhaps some of the topics or skill is like repeating, okay? So when it's repeating or it's being, doing it again and again, the same topic, for example, like they are focusing on possessive adjective, for example. So maybe you can link, okay, or you can join, all right? Join from the topic 1 or topic 2, maybe you can have both. That is why. And it's why even the syllabus is there, again, teachers, because of this pandemic, we have this 2.0, penjajaran 2.0, it became shortened, it became simplified. So again, teachers, please refer to your DKP, aligned, what you call it, the SKP 2.0. All right?
Mr. Ye, you want to add anything?
Yeah. Okay. To address that questions, actually, DPK 2.0, okay, the document penjajaran documents, I think we shouldn't skip it if we are not facing these pandemic situations. But however, due to these pandemic situations, we have the time constraint, as we mentioned earlier. That's why the Ministry of Education introduced the DPK 2.0. So actually, DPK 2.0 is not a new set of documents for our existing DSKP, but it's more like a restructured one, so that we know that what is the kandungan asas, what is the kandungan tambahan, things like that, so that we would know that the kandungan asas will be the main skills that we have to teach the kids. As for the kandungan tambahan, you can try to use other blended methods as been proposed by Dr. Ju just now in order to teach your kids. So from here, it will be like we are not cutting down the lessons, but we're making adaptation of the lessons according to the DPK 2.0, which is telling you, as I shown you just now, the last slide, we have the lesson, okay, even though one of the skill is considered as the main skill, but according to DPK is the complementary skill, which is the kandungan tambahan. But as the kandungan, the complementary skill actually is the main skill. So can I share the screen, Mr. Ermi? Is it okay? In order to highlight the point.
So
is it possible?
After this, we can upload our materials on the platform.
Yeah. So the teachers have to be aware that can we choose and skip? So this question is a bit tricky because what do you want to choose? Choose on what? What do you want to skip? Skip on what? You based on what criteria do you choose and skip? We don't choose and skip because the scheme of work has been provided, but we choose and adapt according to the DPK 2.0, which is we know we have to be aware that which skill is the main one, which skill is the tambahan. All right. So we have the three parts being divided. We have tambahan and the pelengkap. So we must be aware of these three different types of content, and then we do adjustment according to these three different contents.
Mr. Ermi, I would like to address some of the question asking, is this what you call it, new UPSR 2022 will be like MUET? As I mentioned just now, we have the components, all right? We have the components on which we need to focus on writing, listening, speaking, and also the usage of English. Okay, again, if you look at MUET, yes, it's something like that. But we are not the person of saying that, okay, this is a kind of format of UPSR English question will be. You know what I mean? Because when I say what kind of format, we are not the person who say what kind of format of the UPSR in 2022 will be. Okay, teachers, please understand and please refer to your CFR components of skills, all right? That is why teachers, please exercise, please do whatever being suggested in your curriculum framework, all right, in your listening standard. If you do that, inshallah, your student will follow through. Again, teachers, please don't skip. When they're in your student book, they also have like audio. Please make sure that your student listen to the audio. Because why? Because they are foreigners. Their accent is different from us, all right? Their accent is different from the local people. So again, if you do it again and again, inshallah, your student will be familiar. With the accent, they will catch up. Because why? Because in UPSR 2022, maybe they will do this. Okay, they will use the accent of the foreigners, you know, to speak out, to what you call it, to read the question like MUET. All right. So again, if you skip that part of listening and speaking, your student will be left behind in a matter of achieving our target in UPSR new format of 2022. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Johaida. All right. So can we have the next question? Okay, is it okay if we do not use the reading text from the textbook but use other similar texts? So who would like to answer this question?
All right, I think this one is regarding adaptation of the materials. All right, so the years before that we have learning materials adaptations and how we develop the materials, which is aligned with the CFR. So the textbooks has been aligned to CFR. If that's because every page we have the content, the specific knowledge content, which is fulfill the syllabus of that specific year. So if let's say you were skipping, you don't want to use the reading text from the textbook, we have to be aware that do you still talking about the same theme or you out of the theme? If you're using, you don't want to use the text from the textbook, but you're using some other thing which is totally different from the text, of course it's not, but you're mentioning here, the question is saying that it's a similar text. Now, maybe probably, if possible, it can be elaborated further. What does it mean by the similar text in terms of the language difficulty level or the theme itself? So are you trying to say that can we use the text with the similar theme, however, with the less difficult vocabulary in order to enable my kids to understand or achieve the learning standards? Then that will be a different way of saying that. Okay, so my question was saying that, well, we try to use the text that been provided in the textbook. However, you're allowed to do adaptation, or if let's say you are not totally out from the topic, so out from the scope, means that you're still within the scope, you're still within the theme itself, which has been designed by BPK, and yet sometimes you might simplify some of the words because it's too difficult, yet that word is not the key or vocabulary that they have to learn, then it should be okay. So that's the answer.
All right. Okay, next questions. Okay, this is from Noliana. Could it be that in year 6, students are assessed based on an exam that is like MUET format?
I think that we need to address this one. share the
Okay,
address.
actually, I did mention just now, all right?
Mention,
We
yeah.
are, yeah,
Mhm.
I did mention we are not the person of saying that, oh, this kind of
Yeah,
format will
yeah.
come out in our
Mm.
UPSR
Uh,
2022. Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
yeah,
But
we
yeah, but we emphasize you teachers to teach your students accordingly to what the
mm,
CFR is all about. Okay, meaning
yeah.
that don't leave any component behind. You need to teach them speaking, listening, reading, writing, all the four components. Okay,
Yeah.
so meaning that when you say all the four components, of course, is similar like in word format. All right, but
Yeah.
we don't know what kind of format is that. So again,
Yes.
teachers, to be safe, please teach your student accordingly.
Yeah,
Thank
Yeah.
you.
and
So
again,
all.
one more thing is that teach. I do know because we all teachers we carry it away with the exam. We be exam oriented. We know this year 6 is coming soon, so that everyone want to know the format. And again, today the webinar actually we are not saying that we will tell you the format, but one of the modules that in the year 5, year 6 training for last year online training, we have to expose the teachers to be aware that actually we don't do like last time anymore. We don't just focus on reading and writing skills anymore, but we have to focus on all the 4 skills. And this one has been constantly reminded throughout the trainings from 2016, formalization, all the way until current year. The trainers have been keep on constantly remind the teachers that you have to teach all the skills, listening, speaking, reading, and writing, but not in a way that you teach listening, but you still have writing tasks. And then you teach speaking, you still have writing tasks. And you teach reading, you still have writing tasks. It's like studio all the time. So the teachers don't have, as teachers, we don't have to worry so much as long as what we mentioned by Dr. Yu just now, we just teach all the skills. We teach them all the skills. We equip our kids with all the skills. Then definitely they will be able to face the new challenge, the new format. I'll put it that way. So because we are not in a position to tell you the format, we just creating awareness that teachers supposed to teach by focusing all the skills.
Yes, yeah. So all the students need to master all the skills, not only certain
Yeah.
skills, yeah? Okay, thank you. All right, so can we have other questions? I believe that we have lots of questions just now. We must strictly follow SOW. I noticed that the learning processes contain a lot of pair or group work. So how are we going to do this? Social distancing possible? So this is from Vignes Wari. Okay, so I found a lot of questions like this. How can we apply group works during this situation? So,
Dr.
Yeah,
Ju, you would like to address it or
yeah.
yeah, you
Actually,
can
as I
share
mentioned
it.
before, yeah, actually, I did mention about this. You know, when you want to have this, what you call it, formative assessment, when you want to have the activities in classroom, when I mentioned about the FA in the classroom, okay. So you have to be aware during this pandemic COVID-19. All right, we need to exercise the SOP. And one of them is, of course, is the social distancing, physical distancing. So again, teachers, as I told you, you need to be creative. Okay, you need to be creative into what you call it, to make sure that your learning is proceed, but at the same time you practice the SOP, the straight SOP. So again, teachers, we are born to be creative. Am I right? So again, teachers, for example, like if you have a very small class, okay, maybe we can come out from the class, okay, having a section or what you call it, station, and the student can what you call it, take the tasks, right? Rather than doing what you call it, group work, maybe they can do it alone. But again, teachers, you can mention these activities according because of this pandemic, blah blah blah. So you have to justify. Again, teachers, whatever you do, you need to justify. When the officers come to your school, they say, what is it? What is your principal? You need to justify yourself, because this is the pandemic learning strategies is all about. So again, teachers, you are forgiven if you can't have this pair work or group work because of this SOP. You can come up with something else. All right. But again, teachers, justify. Thank you.
Yeah. Or maybe the other way, like just now, Dr. Ju said, you have to follow the SOP. From my perspective, okay, like my school, we have a lot of kids in the same classroom. Of course, we cannot ask the kids to like pair up or group out when they do the speaking or activity. But however, for the writing, if we have this kind of collaborative writing, actually we can do the collaborative writing through the online platform, because the kids has been provided with the MOE account. You probably can set the assignment in the group and ask the kids to sign in, but yet they collaborate and do the writing like the Wikipedia. It's a collaborative writing, but it still can be done. All right, in a way that they still follow this the SOP by intervention of the technology. So probably we can achieve that goal.
Yes,
as well.
I would like to add with Mr. Yap. Okay, what I did during the pandemic, during the MCO, during the home-based learning, I did have this what you call it Jamboard. You know, when I have online classes, I'm using the Google Meet. So inside the Google Meet, even inside the dilemma, we also have an app called Jamboard. So when I ask my students to join my class, all right, they will click the link of my Jamboard. I already stated the question and everything, so they will do it online. So it's very interactive features. That is why I mentioned just now, please equip yourself with a little bit digital resources, with a little bit digital competence for you to mingle around, to find out, okay, there are some tools that you can use rather than having this 21st learning century pair work, group work, and everything. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all about creativity. So teachers can still apply group work and pair work in the classroom, right? Okay, all right. Can we have other questions? Okay, what is exactly language awareness lesson? What are the differences with the normal listening and speaking, reading and writing, language and grammar lessons? So what are the differences?
Yep, can you please address?
Yeah. Okay, actually, our guru template ID. Okay, I don't know how to address this teacher. I'm sorry. Okay, for language awareness has been introduced. It has been introduced a few years back. Okay, but language awareness, what's the difference is that listening, speaking, reading, and writing are the specific skills that we focus on. For each different lessons. Same with language art and grammar. But again, I have to remind everyone, language art and grammar is not a language, is not a skill. The four core skills are referring to listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Language awareness is sort of like consolidation of all the vocabulary or the grammar or the sentence structure that you have taught your kids previously. So language awareness, in another word, is just like a revision or review or sum up the items, the language items that you have taught for that particular unit. All right. So that's the main difference. So language awareness is not a skill, but it's like a consolidation lesson to consolidate and review the items in terms of the grammar and vocabulary from the previous lessons.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Yap. Right. Do we have more questions? Okay, from Gauri, are we allowed to adapt to local or Malaysian context when giving example? Okay, for example, talking about places, just follow the content of student book.
Yeah. I think a lot of teachers has been asking this question since we introduced the Supermarket a few years back. Like, should we teach them about Halloween? Should we teach them about the first seasons in foreign countries? We have to be aware that when they learn that particular language, which is in our local context here, our Malaysia, the target language is English. Where do we use English most of the time? Is the European world, the Western world. So we have to expose our kids to the outside world. Therefore, the textbook has been aligned and the textbook has been chosen carefully so that our kids will be aware of different cultures around the world, okay, especially in terms of the English-speaking world. Now, if you want to adapt it to the local one, of course you can, as a set induction. For example, we talk about all New York City. Before you talk about all New York City, like in Johor Bahru, we talk about the old Johor Bahru city first. When they know the concept of old city and new city, then we bring them further to New York. Okay, but again, you cannot totally skip New York because that is the thing that you have to expose them, all right, about the content. So that is what you should do. You can adapt, but you have to know that what things you need to cover, you have to cover.
Okay, thank you. All right, so do we have more questions? All right, so I think that's all. Okay, thank you for the question from the viewers. Okay. Again, I would like to thank to our speakers, Cikgu Yap Soon Lee from SJKC Tai Hong and Cikgu Johaida Abdul Aziz from SK Pancho for being with us to share with all of you out there pertaining Year 5 curriculum induction. Okay, so thank you to Cikgu Kamura Arifin, who is the webinar host for today. And also, credit to Johor English Digital Learning Resources team, JEDLR, for having the webinar for today. Okay, as I promised, how to earn credit in SPL KPM. So this is the QR code and the link. So you may scan, you may click the link. So after that, you need to fill up the Google form. So the attendance will be recorded and we will key in your credit in SPL KPM, right? So again, thank you everyone for watching us from 2:30 until I would say until 4:15. So thank you. Please share this webinar. Please subscribe our YouTube channel because we have more webinars coming up. All right. So thank you again. Thank you for watching us. Thank you all of you, the speakers. Thanks. Okay. Goodbye. Take care and stay safe.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Okay, thank you everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.